Ahoy! Hello, guys. Welcome to another podcast. Today we will be talking about foreigners living in the Czech Republic. How many of them are there, and from which countries are they coming? How is Czech Republic doing in comparison to another European countries? Let me answer all these questions for you in less than 20 minutes. I have based my answers on the publicly accessible data from the Ministry of Interior Affairs of the Czech Republic, and I hope that you will learn something new about our great country. Let's get to it. If you have a basic idea about the Czech Republic, you probably already know that it's not exactly a super multicultural land. It's nothing like London or Paris in Europe. On the other hand, if you come to Prague as a tourist, you will see many people from all around the world, from different cultures, with different skin color. But when it comes to people who decided to settle down in the Czech Republic and live there for a few years or maybe for the rest of their life, the numbers are not that huge as in the case of another Western countries. And probably we can say that it's because of the past, because obviously the Czech Republic or even let's say the Czechoslovakia didn't have any colonies, so there are no direct connections between, for example, any Asian or African countries where there will be a nation who speaks Czech or has any special connections, like it is in the case of, for example, Belgium, England, or France. And when the Czechoslovakia started as a country of its own in the year of 1918, which was the time right after the First World War, or technically in the last days of the official timing of the First World War, there has been a bit of a discussion if the Czechoslovakia shall be applying for some colony after the countries who have lost. Especially they were taking in their mind a country of Togo in western part of Africa, and it was a small land at the time. There were only 3 million people, so people in Czechoslovakia were thinking that maybe they could be handling such a country, but obviously nothing came up from it, and it was probably a good thing because the Czechoslovakia had to start on their own, and I believe that this way it was easier for them not to take care about another very far away land, and also this way we don't have any bad history when it comes to such ways of colonialism as in other countries. On the other hand, it means that many people in the Czechoslovakia and today in Czech Republic are not that used to being in contact with foreigners. And when you take a look into the past, just the modern past of communism, then you probably know that people who were living in Czechoslovakia couldn't freely travel anywhere outside of the country. You have to have a special permission, which was not that easy to get, and if your record wasn't as clear from the political point of view, you could hardly get it, or they were doing it the way that sometimes they were allowing only a husband, but wife and kids had to stay in Czechoslovakia, so that this way they would prevent people from emigrating from Czechoslovakia. So many people simply didn't travel outside of the Czech Republic, of the Czechoslovakia at the time. And also there wasn't much of a tourism coming from any other countries. But there have been some exceptions. As there was the former Eastern Bloc of countries, they were kind of doing a bit of exchange between each other, and as the Czech Republic was one of the best countries in the Eastern Bloc, obviously many people wanted to come to Czechoslovakia and have the opportunity to learn there something new, to work there at factories or maybe study at the universities. So there had been many students from lands such as Cuba or from Middle Eastern countries, even few people from African countries. And of course, in the time there had been a special agreement between the Czechoslovakian government and Vietnamese government. So many people from Vietnam came to the Czech Republic and they decided to stay. And that's the third biggest minority at the time in the Czech Republic currently. So I have even a special podcast explaining the way how they came to the Czech Republic and what they are like today in the Czech Republic, about the place that you can visit to see something like a Chinatown in Prague. And you can take a look if you want to, but let me get back to the more general theme of this podcast. So when we take a look inside of the current numbers at the time, then we see that in the Czech Republic currently lives around 500,000 foreigners. Is it a big or small number? Well, it really depends on the way that you look at it, because the Czech Republic has around 10 million. It means that about 5% of people living in the Czech Republic are foreigners. I found some statistics from the year 2017 and it shows a comparison of different European countries. So what do these numbers tell us? It shows us that, for example, in the case of Luxembourg, there lives around 50% of foreigners from their population. But when we take a look around to, for example, Germany, the number is close to 11%. And in the case of the Great Britain, it is around 9%. So it is roughly double of the amount of the Czech Republic. But when we take a look to another European countries, I will now name you those where there is smaller or lower percentage of foreigners. It is Finland, only 4%, Portugal, less than 4%, then there is Hungary with only 1.5%, Slovakia with 1.3%, and then there is, for example, Bulgaria or Croatia, it is only around 1%. And then there is Poland, and in Poland it is only 0.6%. As in many cases, I would say that the Czech Republic is somewhere in the middle. Like in this case, the numbers are somewhere in the middle in comparison between Germany, the Great Britain, or Poland. So, yeah. It really depends on the point of view. Now that we know how the Czech Republic is standing in comparison with other European countries, let's take a look a bit deeper and see who the foreigners are. So out of this 500,000 people, 140,000 of them are from Ukraine. So it is a land that is currently not part of the European Union, and there is some special agreement between our government and theirs that these people can come to the Czech Republic for work. As it is maybe interesting for you if you don't know it yet, but the Czech Republic has the lowest unemployment rate in whole of the European Union. So constantly we are looking for new workers. And that's the reason behind this agreement with Ukraine, because these people, as they are not in the EU, they are looking for a possibility to work anywhere in Europe, let's say a bit more tough jobs, because that's the usual image of people from Ukraine. Of course, they are not only doing the hard work in factories or as people working in construction sites and so on. There are also some software engineers and so on. But in general, if you would ask somebody in the Czech Republic if they know about any people from Ukraine, they might tell you that they are usually working in, let's say, a bit less paid professions. There are ladies from Ukraine who are working as cleaning ladies, and some of them are working in shops or in bakeries once that they are capable of talking in the Czech language in sufficient level. Then the second biggest minority in the Czech Republic are Slovaks. So as you know, we used to be Czechoslovakia and we separated our ways in the year of 1993. So it's quite a modern past, and many of people from Slovakia have double citizenship, or they have part of their family still living in the Czech Republic, so it makes it especially easy for them to come to the Czech Republic for work. And as Czech is doing better than Slovakia, it is quite tempting for them, and it is very easy for them to understand Czech language, and we don't have much problems with understanding Slovak language, so it is really easy for them to come here and start working pretty much in any field they want to. If you are interested a bit more about the ways why we separated our ways, then I have another dedicated podcast especially about this, so you can take a look into that one. And now let's move to the third biggest minority, which are people from Vietnam. And we have already touched this topic a bit, and there is another dedicated podcast. So let me move further to the minority number 4, which are people from Russia. And based on these information, there were less than 40,000 of them living in the Czech Republic. And then we got here minority number 5, which are people from Poland, and there was or should be currently slightly more than 20,000 of them. And these guys are mostly working in the northern part of the Czech Republic. As you know, Poland is one of our neighboring countries, so there are many connections, especially between Czech Silesia and Poland. So there are people who are able to talk in Polish in these areas of the Czech Republic. I'm not one of them, so I don't know that much about them, but I heard some stories from friends who are from this area of the Czech Republic. So I'm just assuming that it would be quite a logical move for them to come to this part of the Czech Republic, but I'm quite sure that they are also working in another part of our country. And the minority number 6, based on the information that I got, are Germans. And there is also slightly more than 20,000 of them living in the Czech Republic. And it might be a similar story, because obviously Germany is another of our neighboring countries. So there has been contacts for centuries between our two nations, and there are people who married Czech person or there are Germans who are working for German companies in the Czech Republic, and also many Czech people, especially in West Bohemia, are learning German as their second or third language. So I can imagine that it's also not so difficult for people from Germany to come and live in the Czech Republic. So now that you know who are the people in top 6, you can imagine that it's not such an exotic mixture. They are mostly Caucasian people with the exception of Vietnamese. So you won't meet that many people coming from Africa in the Czech Republic at the time. But of course, there are some, and if you are interested, you can take a look to the publicly accessible information. You can see their country one by one and the number of people who are living in the Czech Republic with permanent stay or temporary stay. And I selected a few more countries. So, for example, in the case of India, only about 5,000 Indians are living in the Czech Republic. In the case of Japan, it is about 2,000. And I was quite surprised to learn that there is even one person from North Korea, or was, because the information were actual in the last of December 2019, so the person might still be in the Czech Republic, but maybe not, who knows. And for example, in the case of Jamaica, there are less than 10 people of this origin currently living in the Czech Republic, and in the case of Kenya, it's less than 100. So I hope that I gave you some basic idea about people, about foreigners currently living in the Czech Republic. Obviously, based on the data, there are not that many coming from African countries and not that many coming from countries where Islam is a main religion. I am personally very interested in this topic, in the way that Czech people perceive foreigners and how foreigners perceive us. And I am currently working on a project where I am asking Czech people to let me know their opinions about different nations, and then I would like to ask people from these nations to give us some feedback, some opinions that they have about the Czech Republic. And I would like to share this service, the result of these researches with you through these podcasts, and I hope that we will learn a bit more about each other, and probably we will find out that there are many similarities between our cultures, even if we don't see them at first sight. Thank you for listening to this podcast, and hope to meet you soon when you will be listening to next episode. Bye bye.